I'm not nearly as powerful, as fast as I used to be, but I can still go hard when I want to, and I love to push myself. I think it's really important as we get older, I'm 51 years of age right now, that I really continue to suffer once in a while. I feel like it's a gift to be able to suffer. I feel like it makes me feel alive when I can feel that, and I need to do it. People think I'm crazy, but I'll make myself really dig deep at least once every 3 or 4 months.
Joining us in the studio today is a former professional road cyclist who raced amongst some of the legends of our sport, ultimately collecting over 70 victories. He's also a professional coach and successful entrepreneur. He's a father, a husband, and a friend to many top athletes around the world. Please welcome Robbie Ventura. Hey, RV, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited to be here. I got a chance to watch a couple of these, and man, you do an amazing job, and I'm honored to be here, that's for sure.
Oh, thank you. It's been a lot of fun doing this, and meeting people like you and all the other athletes and ambassadors that we support and hearing their stories it's what it's all about.
You get a little bit more of an inside look, you know what I mean? Because you support a lot of these athletes, and now you get to have this personal conversation. It's awesome, man. I love what you're doing here.
It's cool. Well, thank you. Well, Robbie, you're familiar with the show, and usually what we do is we start out with some of the basics. Like, first of all, where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling in from Highland Park, Illinois, North Shore of the Chicago there, right off the lake.
You're a native Illinoisan, right?
No, I'm a cheesehead. I'm a native Wisconsinite. I'm from Wisconsin, born and raised, Kenosha, Wisconsin, hence the K-Town Motor.
Oh, that's right,
as a
K-Town
nickname.
Motor.
I went to Lake Forest College, moved to Chicago, moved to the suburbs right after college.
What did your parents do when you were growing up?
They were working class folks. My mom was a physical therapist. My dad was a construction worker. Really old school Italian, very traditional family. 2 older sisters, both brilliant and people that I look up to today. My dad and my mom are second generation full-blooded Italians, and they were about the best parents I could ever ask for.
Do you speak Italian?
I'm the only one in my family that doesn't, believe it or not. And I probably have traveled to Europe more than everybody else. But my mom loves Italy. My sister Jane lived in Italy for a while. And my dad he loves his Italian heritage. I unfortunately know some words, swear words mostly. And I learned those in the Pro Peloton. Unfortunately, I don't speak Italian.
Speaking of the Pro Peloton and swear words, can you swear in multiple languages besides Italian and English?
Italian and English is all I got. That's all I got. Because I hear it from my old man a little bit, so I really learned. It kind of resonated when I heard the Italians in the Peloton say it. So just Italian.
That's awesome. What do your sisters do today, and where are they in the world?
My sister Jane is retired, and she lives out in Manhattan Beach, California. And half the year she lives in Tucson, Arizona. My sister Ellen lives literally a half a mile from me. She's also retired, and they both got a couple of kids. My sister Ellen has 3. My sister Jane has 2. We're still very close. We spend all the holidays together.
Awesome.
And I'm the godfather of all their kids. They're the godparents of mine. It's a close-knit Italian family.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall during a Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner at your house.
It's great. I mean, as an Italian boy, I'm the protected one. I'm the only boy, and I'm the youngest in my family. So my sisters get frustrated because I always get the preference, right, for my parents. At least they think I get the preference. But all throughout my entire childhood, my dad and my mother were very supportive of my sports. My sisters were dancers, so they didn't get quite the support that I got. I got a lot of attention, and that comes up a lot. So they make fun of me a lot with it. But they're amazing. They're amazing. 2 amazing ladies.
Your sisters were dancing. Were you riding a bike, or what were you into as a kid?
I had underdeveloped lungs. I had like this bronchial disease that the doctor said, you got to get this young man in endurance sports. So they got me into soccer. So I started playing a lot of soccer when I was younger, and I met some kids on my team. And soccer was inexpensive. There was a field down the street, so we started playing. And believe it or not, one of the kids on my team said, I want to go race our bikes at the velodrome in Kenosha. I want to get on that track and get our BMX bikes and see, because we ride bikes all the time to and from soccer, and we're so fast. We thought we were really fast. I was 7 years old, 8 years old. So we went out to the velodrome, and we started racing on what's called stock bike or Monday night stock bike program, where you don't have to have a fixed gear bike to race. And there was tons and tons of kids back then doing that program. And I remember putting on a hairnet, and they put us on the line, and some guy held me and said, go. And we did 2 laps around the track as fast as we could. I was spinning out. I was probably at 200 RPM. On my Huffy, I had a bread seat. I had a little like plastic gas tank. But it was I just absolutely loved it. And I was good at it. Despite my bike situation, I was going pretty fast. And I remember my buddy's dad dropped me off and said, hey, Bob, that's my dad's name is Bob, you got to go to the velodrome. These kids are having a ball. Because he was taking me every Monday then. My dad was staying home and working or doing whatever. And my dad's like, okay, I'll go next week. Literally, we drive to the velodrome, and we get there, and I get my bike out, and we get out to the track, and officials and people at the track started going, hey, Bob, what are you doing here? I haven't seen you in forever. And I'm like, I'm 8 years old going, how do these people know my dad? This is so crazy. I get home, and he's like, son, I used to race. And he brings out this box, and he opens it up.
No
And there's
way.
jerseys, there's state championship gold medals. I mean, I come to find out, he never said a word to me my whole life. He was a really, really good bike rider when he was younger. And he raced bikes from the age of like 10 to the age of like 17. And he was awesome. He became my coach. By far and away the best coach I've ever had was my old man. He's
Oh my God.
me since. It's
That's
really cool.
incredible.
It was crazy. I mean, imagine how like he was just such a humble guy. But then think about this. I mean, once I told him I liked cycling, it just lit the fire in him. And he was doing stuff to my bike when I was 10 years old. He was drilling out my chain rings. He was drilling out my helmet to make it like lighter and to get me more airflow. I mean, he would do the craziest stuff. When I was 9 years old, this is a true story, he was taking my resting rate every morning and putting it in a journal. And he would
Wow.
wake up, he got a little motorbike. And when I was 11 years old, before school, 6 a.m. in the morning, he would take me out motor pacing before school every morning. I mean, he never went to college. I think he barely finished high school. And this guy was so far ahead of it on the tech side as well as the coaching side. Intervals and like weight and heart rate, resting heart rate. I mean, this is back in 79. No, Oura Ring just came out. You know what I mean? Like 10 years ago. So he was the first Oura Ring.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was the live walking, talking Oura Ring.
Exactly. He was amazing. Yeah.
That's incredible. It's almost like your future was predetermined when that box opened up with all that vintage stuff.
It really did. And I've been chasing being half the coach that he was my whole life. I mean, he could see, he would like literally watch people ride and go, I think that guy's got a hip injury or something. And next thing you know, we'd find out that the guy like broke his hip like 2 weeks ago. Like he was so tuned in to not only physiology and not know anything about physiology. He didn't know the Krebs cycle. But he understood when people were fatigued. He understood body position on the bicycle. He understood maximizing power output. And he understood how to go fast, that's for sure. Because he taught me at a very young age how to draft, how to be in good position, how to use tactics. And it's kind of carried through my whole career. I was never a really talented guy. I was never had the big engine. I never could produce the big power output. But I managed to win races because I maximized everything else. And that's what I think
That's
made me a
incredible.
good coach. And it stems from my father. He put that in me when I was, 8 years old.
I can't believe we've known each other all these years, and I didn't know that story.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
Clearly, you picked up the bike, you loved it, you were pursuing that, but you also had to study and be a good student. So what kind of, tell us about academics, and, you eventually would graduate high school and go to college, and what did you study in college, and what kept you busy academically?
I was a pretty good student, but even though I loved cycling, I wanted to be a hockey player. That's all I wanted to do. Cycling was a fun kind of distraction for me. It was obviously my dad's favorite thing, but for me, I wanted to play professional hockey, and that's all I thought about. I practiced nonstop. I had an opportunity. I got a lot of interest from some Division I colleges, and I had to go play junior A college. So I went to high school. Instead of going to college, I played junior A hockey for the Dubuque Fighting Saints. And my whole goal was to play Division I hockey. And I had a couple of very, very strong commits when I went and played junior A. And at that time, there was only one junior A league in the country, and it was the USHL. But unfortunately, when I first got there, we did some dry land training, and I tore my quadricep. And before the first game, I jumped over a log and I ripped it, and I missed the first like 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and I was already on my back foot. Then I had a horrific facial injury where I broke my mandible, my orbital bone, my cheekbone, and my nose. I got hit with a stick, and I just shattered the whole right side of my face, which set me back again. Then I got traded to the Des Moines Buccaneers because I had such a rough go in the beginning, and my hockey kind of like I started to have this realization that a 5'10", 180-pound Italian kid that's decently fast and decent hands is not going to make it to the NHL. And I ended up going to Lake Forest College. They helped me out financially. I had an unbelievable freshman year playing hockey there. I just absolutely loved it. It was probably, when I think about my most exciting sports, moment of my life, it was playing Notre Dame at Lake Forest College. We played half Division I schedule, half a Division III schedule, and we were playing Notre Dame at home when I was a freshman, and I scored the winning goal. And
No way.
as a freshman, the entire Lake Forest hockey, the entire student body was crammed in this little hockey rink, and I came out and I felt like I was floating, like on air. Because cycling in front of a bunch of people that kind of know you or kind of don't is great, but playing in front of your student body in a hockey rink, playing the sport that you love more than anything in the world and scoring the winning goal, I will never match that. I mean, having my kids, Lori, if you're watching this, marrying you, of course, 100% number one thing. But from an athletic achievement perspective, believe it or not, I don't think I can get is those tingles like you get there.
Was that a home game also?
It was a home game, yep. The next day, we went to Notre Dame and played away, right? You play a home and away game. We played at Lake Forest on Friday. We played in Notre Dame on Saturday, and I tore my ACL in that game. And it ended my freshman year of hockey. But I ended up majoring in business and psychology. I finished this is kind of a cool thing. As I was my junior year, I hurt my shoulder playing hockey, and Jamie Carney said to me, "Hey, RV, I want to go make the world championship team in Blaine, Minnesota, and I want you to lead me out for the points race. I can make the team for the points race, but you got to drive up there. I'm going to give you some cash if you just go up there and work for me. And if I make the team, I'll give you a lot more cash." So I was like, sure. You know what I mean? I was out with a shoulder injury.
You're injured, yeah.
I wasn't in great shape. It was my junior year. I drive up to Blaine. We start warming up. We start doing some training, whatever. We figure out what our tactic's going to be. Literally, I'm going to lead him out because it's a real short velodrome. I'm going to take him with 2 laps to go. I'm going to swing up the track. He's going to slide underneath me, and he's just going to take point sprint after point sprint. We had it all planned out. It was all done. Okay? I said, great. We both make the final. There's 40 of us. It's like a 240-lap race. I do lead him out on the first sprint, he wins it, 5 points. Second sprint, he wins it, 10 points. Third sprint, he wins it, 15 points. He's way out ahead. He's going to win the race. All of a sudden, Steve Haig and I think Dirk Copeland attack, and I go with them, and I just sit on their wheels. I don't pull at all because he was worried about Haig, who was eventually won a gold medal in the Olympics, as you know. He was worried about Copeland, the national team. So he said, if those guys go, you have to be with them. We lap the field. In points racing, if you lap the field, you're ahead, right? They've changed the rules a little bit since then, but basically I was ahead. But he's like, Robbie, I'm going to get my lap back. So he takes off. I lead him out. He takes off. He gets a half a lap. The national team attacks over the top. Steve Hagen and Copeland go. I go with him. I get my second lap. And I go, Jamie, you got to help me now. We won the next 6 sprints. I win the race, end up going to the World Championships in Norway and getting 5th place in the elimination. And that was kind of my whole kickoff to my pro cycling career. Like all of a sudden, I go there to help him out. I end up winning the race, going to the World Championships, and I started to believe that maybe cycling was a direction I needed to start thinking about.
Wow, that's incredible. You hadn't yet graduated Lake Forest College yet, had you?
No, I was a junior. I was kind of more focused on hockey at the time. I was just fast. I was big and strong, and like in cycling on the track, I could really fight for position well. Again, all those skills I learned from my dad. I learned to really piece together every skill I could have to end up taking that victory. But it was a lot of luck, that's for sure.
You graduate from Lake Forest with business and psychology, right? Double major, something like that.
Yep.
And what was next? Did you think, okay, I'm going to give this bike racing thing a try, or was there a career path you were set on? What was next?
I was lucky. Tom Schuler had the Saturn cycling team, and when I was a senior, I took an internship with Tom Schuler And it was, I mean, this is like, again, it's hilarious, but I literally went to work for Tom Schuler in like, as to help him with contracts and to help him with his business. But I also trained a ton during that time. And I started really getting good because my internship was part work, part training. And I ended up winning a pretty big pro race during Super Week. And Tom was like, hey, man, you're riding great. I'm going to have you, after you graduate, I want you to race for the Saturn Pro team for at least half the year and see how it goes. So he gave me the opportunity to do that. I'm super grateful for it. And then I kind of like my career kind of launched. Took a definite big slip after that year. I took a turn for the worse, but I pulled kind of out of it and ended up having a good run.
But you were getting paid to ride your bike.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, not a lot, but it was enough, and I was having a good enough time, and it was exciting for me. I was fired up to be a professional at something.
From Saturn, how many years did you spend on Saturn before you went to Navigators?
I spent a year a year and a half on Saturn. Then no one knows this really, but Tom fired me, and I was a privateer for a year, and I ended up really kind of learning about the sport of cycling in that year. I had a big, huge support system from my wife Lori, and I went down to Arizona and I started winning bike races as an independent. And right then I ended up I got signed by Navigators about halfway through that independent year. Then I raced 3 years with Ed Beeman, who was an awesome director sportif. We had such an incredible team back then. And then I went back to Saturn for 3 more years and then finished with 4 years with Postal Service.
You mentioned your wife, Lori. Sounds like you got married pretty young, right? When did you meet Lori? And tell us about Lori.
I met Lori my junior year, between sophomore and junior year at Lake Forest, and she was a big part of the reason why I stuck it out after Tom let me go, because she was a school teacher. She was doing fine. We had insurance covered. I didn't have a ton of expenses, and she's the one who kind of pushed me into giving it another go and not just pulling the ripcord. Because I wanted to be at that point I was like, this is too hard of an existence. I want to have kids. I want to have all these things that was given to me from my parents. I wanted to be a father, and I felt like the way I was going, I wasn't quite meeting my financial goals. And I started going through the process of becoming a financial planner. And she said, just give this another year. Just give it another go. And I listened to her, and I trained really hard, and I made a go of it, and it all worked out. But Lori is absolutely, I married up on that one. She is a person that if you ever get to meet her, and you've met her, she's dynamite. I'm just super blessed to have her in my life.
You guys ended up having a few kids as well, right?
4-pack, yeah. We have 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy. Enzo, Luna, Luciana, and Rocky. Rocky's a girl.
And where are they all in the world today? What are they doing?
My daughter Luna is graduating from Northwestern this year, which is exciting. She's the manager of the lacrosse team, and she's pre-med and pre-law. So Tess definitely takes after her mom in terms of her brain. And then Enzo's at NYU, Tisch School, and he is going to be an actor. And then I have 2 in high school.
Nice.
17 and 15.
That's a full house, man.
Yep.
Robbie, let's go back to your cycling career. So after your second stint at Saturn, you ended up getting noticed by someone on US Postal. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so kind of like that first stint where I wanted to pull back a little bit and retire, I retired. Like I said, after I did the US Pro Championship. I told Tom Schuler I did a huge race. I did the Sun Tour in Australia. I'd raced like 112 days in 1 year, one time. My last year on Saturn, I said, Tom, I've had enough. I want to pull the pin here. I want to retire. He said, absolutely no problem. I respect it. You're done. And as soon as that happened, this was in like September, October-ish, I started going through that process of going back to my people at AXA Advisors, and I was taking my Series 6 test, and Mark Gorski called me up out of the blue and said, hey, we need a domestic sprinter. We need somebody that is good with the media, can inspire and potentially do some personal appearances as well, but really want to win some races stateside. And I was like, Mark, I retired like a month and a half ago. He's like, I know you did. I talked to Tom. I just thinking that maybe if it's a limited race schedule and you don't have to travel a bunch and most of your racing is in the United States, you might take a look at it. And I said, let me get back to you. And like, I'll never forget this. I was like, Lori, that was Mark Gorski from US Postal Service, #1 team in the world. She's like, what is he? What does he want to ask you about some sprinters or ask you about some riders in the peloton? I'm like, no, he wants me to race for the team. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you got to call your dad. And I'm like, oh my God. So when she said you have to call your dad, I was like, I have to do this. I just have to do this. So I called him back the next day. He sent me the schedule. It was super, it was a great schedule for me. The problem was I was kind of getting out of shape, and I had a training camp in Alicante, Spain in December that I wasn't prepared for. And I was just super nervous about not being good enough. I mean, that was one of those times where you're going to a training camp with the greatest racers in the world, and you're not in great shape, and you've been in the winter, and your brain was been shut off from cycling for 2 months. It was quite a journey to try to get myself fit for that camp, and I never really did get that fit for it, and I paid the price a little bit, but it is what it is.
Robbie, what years were those that you were on US Postal?
That was 2001, 2, 3, and 4. So I retired from Saturn at the end of 2000 and started with Postal Service 2001 and retired for the third time in 2004.
That was an incredible era, right, to be on that team. Some incredible talent also on that team. Can you share some fun stories and some camaraderie that happened on that team?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was way over my skis. From the second I went to the first training camp to the second I left that team, I just the level of professionalism, the way the team was organized, Dan Osipo, Gorski, Johan, Lance, I mean, those are legends of our sport. And to be able to sit down and have meals with them, to do some smaller races with them. We did the Tour of Georgia together. We did the San Francisco Grand Prix. We did the New York Criterium with Lance. Anytime you had that opportunity to race, it was amazing how just being around those guys raised your level up a notch. But I'll never forget the first day I got to camp. I literally got off the plane, went to the dinner, and Ekimov was next to me, and Johan was like, Eki, we got testing tomorrow. And I was like, I don't feel like testing. Make this guy go. And he points to me. I literally just got off the plane. Now, seriously, I'm the weakest guy there, right? I just get off the plane. I've retired for 2 months. I haven't ridden my bike, basically. And now the next morning, I got to wake up and test, completely jet lagged. And I'll never forget, I overslept. And I just heard this pounding on my door. And I just I was so discombobulated when I woke up. I didn't know where I was, what was going on. And it was Johan saying, it's 8:30. You were supposed to be ready at 8 because they told me where to be in the morning. And it was not the greatest way to start camp on the U.S. Postal Service for your first experience. Within 30 minutes of the time I woke up, I was on a bike doing like a VO2 max test. It's out of my mind. It was one of those things. And I'll never forget this too. Some of the sponsored riders were so strong that my whole goal on some of the rides were to keep up with Tony Doyle from Nike and make sure I at least stayed with the group until he got dropped. There was so many fit people that were part of the sponsorship people that were at these events that I had to work my butt off just to keep up with some of those people. So it was a tough camp for me. Everybody else is just, getting miles in, and I'm on my limit the entire time.
RV, you mentioned Lance on the team. Those years were some of the glory years with Lance. What was it like sort of riding with that level of talent, or that level of, the microscope when the spotlight was on and the attention and the crowds? What was that like?
Well, I can tell you something about Lance as a leader. One of the first experiences that I had with him was after we did a training camp in Spain. We went back to Arizona, and we did like a sponsor camp. And I'll never forget this. I was exhausted. The camp was like 13 days in Spain, and then we flew right to Arizona to meet the sponsors. And I'll never forget this. This is a story, literally, I can't, two stories. One is, it was raining that day, and we were supposed to do 2 or 3 hours in the rain, 2 hours maybe, 3 hours in the rain. And there was going to be some sponsors. They canceled the sponsor thing because no one wants to ride in the rain. We ended up going out for like an hour and a half, and we're turning kind of back towards the hotel. And it's raining. I mean, it's cold. It's Tucson in the morning, and I'll never forget. We're kind of starting to make a left-hand turn, and he comes riding alongside the peloton and goes, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, we're going back to the hotel. He's like, no, we're not. If we want to win the Tour de France, we got to do all 4 hours today. And he's totally cool, but not like mean or whatever. He's just like, this is what it takes. I don't know what team you guys are on, but this team's trying to win the Tour de France. So we're going to do all 4 hours in this pouring rain after being on a plane and just finishing a training camp that we just did for 14 days. And I remember going back to my room going, dude, this is what it takes. That decision is what it takes to have that mindset, to win 7 of those things in a row, regardless of how it happened or whatever. It's very, very difficult to prepare year after year at that level and be able to do that. And I was blown away. And the second time I was blown away is the one thing that I thought I might be better than Lance at was bike handling. Mm-hmm. And I remember I flatted. We were going down we had this climb that we went back down to the hotel all the time, and it was pretty steep and pretty gnarly. And I flatted. I got my wheel changed. The team vehicles behind us. They changed my wheel. Get right back on my bike, and I start going. And like maybe another 200 yards up the road, Lance had flatted, and he was getting his wheel changed. But we were like maybe 2 or 3 minutes behind the peloton or behind the team, and I was like, I'm going to show this guy what a real descender is like. I'm going to show him what this kid from the Sandlots of Kenosha can do when you got a gnarly, crazy downhill ahead of you. Because I could not keep up with him going uphill. I couldn't keep up with him on the flats. I had not even close to his endurance. But I knew for a fact that he could not keep up with me going down a hill. And I'll never forget, he got on his bike, and this is probably bad to say, no hat, no helmet on, just a up backwards US Postal hat. That's it, right? I'm in front of him. I got my helmet on, of course. Mm-hmm. And we're going down this hill, and I'm going as fast as I could possibly go. I'm taking so much risk because I'm trying to impress Lance.
Yeah.
He goes, watch this, D. He goes, woof. He was a dot. Wow. Like literally. Like it took about 3 minutes, and I could no longer see him.
Wow.
And I'll just never forget this. I was like, what the heck, man? The one area that I thought maybe I could be as good as him, I wasn't even close. So it was. Those are 2 stories I have about Lance that I'll never forget as long as I live.
Yeah, that's an incredible commitment, right? To push you guys in the rain, but also incredible talent. Yeah. RV, you mentioned your that legendary winning goal in the Lake Forest versus Notre Dame game.
Yes.
Tell me about a time in cycling that gets close to that moment. Was there a victory, a celebration, a win that was just right up there for you?
I'm kind of a softie when it comes to my family and the people that I care about watching me ride my bike. My parents sacrificed a lot. My sister sacrificed a lot, Lori. So I'm from Kenosha, Wisconsin. And in Super Week, we have one of the biggest races of this Criterium series. And that's what I was really good at was Criteriums, was the Kenosha Criterium, which was one of the premier races in the Super Week series. And I'd gotten second the year before. And then this year, the year I'm talking about, I was off the front with these 2 Australian guys, and they were really good bike riders, Carl Menzies and Chris England. And I literally I was kind of riding with the energy of my family and the people there. There were so many people at this event, and they were all cheering for one person, which was me. And to be able to deliver in that element and with those people cheering for me in my hometown after getting second the year before, I know that doesn't sound like much, the Kenosha Criterium. I'm sure you've had people with Tour de France winners here, but the Kenosha Criterium in front of my home crowd, in front of my family, wearing the Postal Service jersey was one of my best moments on a bike.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, that's pretty special for sure. Family, hometown. I don't. There's not much that beats that other than the Tour de France or the Olympics,
or any stage in any big.
Hey, on that note, while we're talking about Olympics and Tour de France and World Championships, I ask several athletes this question: what do you think is more valuable, or which would you rather choose? Olympic gold or World Championship rainbow stripes?
Oh, Olympic gold medal. Over the World Championships?
Yeah.
The Olympics.
How come?
Once every 4 years. The whole world is watching, not just the people in your sport. You know, you're representing your country in such a way that you're representing your country at the Worlds, but I just feel like it's different. The Olympics are there's so much pomp and circumstance. There's so much political elements to it. It's just, I feel like representing your country at the Olympics is an incredible accomplishment in itself, but to win a gold medal doing that is the ultimate. And once every 4 years versus once every year.
Sometimes I get 50-50 on that answer. Some people are like, well, you get to wear the rainbow stripes for a year.
How about the Olympic gold medal versus the Tour de France? That's a tough one. I'd say probably Tour de France.
Okay, RV, let's go to 2004, your last year with US Postal. Why'd you retire, and what'd you do right afterwards?
I retired because I just had my second kid, Enzo, and I had a third one coming. And I was ready to be done traveling. And I had already kind of created a really good business, a coaching business during my last 3 years as a professional. And there's one last quick story. I know I'm probably taking too much time here, but
no, this is all good.
When you have the opportunity to race again near your hometown, so the last race I did was the US Pro Criterium Championships in Downers Grove, and the beautiful thing for me is I could sleep in my own bed. I always think it's such a huge advantage to be able to sleep in a comfortable environment, in an environment that you're used to before big events. I think one of the biggest challenges is sleeping and recovering and just having what you need around you. So to be able to make my last race a race where I could sleep in my own bed, wake up, have my normal coffee, have my normal breakfast. But as I was rolling down to the race, and I was by myself, I was in a minivan. I had all my stuff in the minivan. The entire team was already at the event. They were staying at the hotel. They let me stay away at my house. And all of a sudden, Five for Fighting, I'm 15 years for a moment. And all of a sudden, I'm 33 for a moment. A kid on the way. Like all of a sudden these lyrics go into my mind. I don't know if you've ever heard that song. The lyrics are, I'm 33 for a moment, a kid on the way, babe, the world's on my mind. Like these lyrics from this song, I pulled over and started crying, thinking about this is my last race. But it's a good cry, right? It was like, I was ready to move on. I was ready to start thinking about another path that I feel like could be more beneficial to my family. Having all these kids coming through, like my dreams were starting to kind of come together.
Yeah.
And it would have really put the kind of the final candle on the cake if I could have won that race. But I don't know if you know the story of that race. Is I was coming through the final corner in second place with literally just there's 250 meters to the finish line. I was in a great position to really have a good race. I've been second in that race twice, and I crashed going around the final corner, and that was it. That was the kind of the end of my cycling career. Not kind of a big thud, but after that, I had my pieces in line. I already had my coaching business. I knew what I wanted to do. As a professional cyclist, in my mind, it was a kind of a selfish existence. I felt like everything I did was for myself. Once I started coaching people, once I became a father, a big part of this giant gap that was in my life that had grown as a professional cyclist, I started to kind of fill by helping others, by being a father, by taking a less selfish approach to how I was living and where I was making my money. And helping others was just one of those things that I enjoyed doing more than anything else. Helping others get faster, helping others get fit. And it was a great transition for me. And financially, it was a great transition. And emotionally, and what I needed to complete myself as a person, it really filled that void.
That's awesome. So let's talk about Vision Quest a little bit more deeply here. So a few years before retiring, you sketched out on a napkin somewhere this idea for a coaching business. You named it Vision Quest. Yeah. What was the business plan, or what was the whole sort of concept that you drafted?
Well, initially it was I was just trying to help some people when I was a professional. I had access to really good information. I had access to really good data from the coaches that I had access to as a professional. And I was a rider that needed to do everything right to be competitive. So I understood a lot of the weekend warrior mentality. I understood that, hey, I don't have as much time. I want to be more efficient with my training. I understood power-based training as good as as anybody really. I worked with Floyd for a couple of years and helped him, improve his power output for sure. And I just had a really good grasp on it. And I started helping people and using the things that I learned to help them get stronger. And as I was helping more and more people, I started randomly just, hey, the guy's like, I want to pay you. I wasn't even charging people. I was just helping them.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I started, I knew how to do blood lactate testing. I was ahead of the curve there. I was ahead of the curve in terms of using CompuTrainers and linking them together and letting people do a workout based on a relative FTP. And then people just started paying me more and more money. I started getting more and more athletes. And by the time I retired, I was making significantly more money from coaching than I was from US Postal Service and my prize money. So the transition really wasn't a difficult one for us. But then it started to really grow. And I started opening up more facilities. I started working with more than just cyclists. I started working with triathletes. We started opening up the type of athlete that we were working with. It wasn't just hardcore cyclists. We started working with beginners as well. And it just kind of grew to where it is today.
Now, Robbie, you certainly had a little bit of a leg up because of your exposure with teams and, managers and the expertise within a race team. But you just talked about some very sophisticated stuff, FTP and blood lactate, very medical sciencey stuff. Did you do any continuing education sort of offline to augment your knowledge there, or did you learn it all within the team?
I learned it. I read every conceivable book about exercise physiology that I could. And I was really lucky to be around some incredible coaches. Alan Lim and I worked hand in hand for many, many years. I had the team from Saris behind me as well. And I was fortunate enough to have the practical and tactical side from my father. And then I would say Alan Lim really taught me the scientific side of things. He really kind of took me under his wing and helped me a lot to understand a little bit more of the depth of training. I also had some great coaches locally that I relied on. And I also hired a bunch of great coaches that taught me things. I'm still learning stuff on a regular basis. The one thing that I will tell you is I still have a lot to learn. And I have the mentality that athletes can teach me. I can teach them. I can always learn from new people on a regular basis. So I just took a deep dive into the exercise science piece of it. I never went back to school, never went to grad school for any of this, but just was constantly learning. Now, Sebastian Weber is a huge resource for me. Dr. Phil Skiba is a huge resource for me. As you know, Dr. Kevin Sprouse is a huge resource. I'm still learning on a regular basis, and I'm just very fortunate to have people like that in my life that have helped me.
Wonderful. Robbie, about 20 years ago, sports science technology was pretty young. Doing blood lactate meant you had to get your finger pricked every couple minutes or so.
You love that, don't you, Dave?
Yeah. I mean, 20 times pricking your finger. Yeah, that was great. But it was pretty antiquated. It was like, almost medieval, like pricking your finger. And then, you had a heart rate monitor and a power meter. How has technology through the years changed things? And what does today look like in terms of performance testing versus 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think, algorithms, the more metabolic information that we have access to now has really changed things. What's really changed things, in my opinion, is the recovery elements that we know, HRV and resting heart rate and Oura rings and the Whoop bands, and having not only the workout intensity and what's happening physiologically, metabolically while you're doing different intervals, but when you're sleeping, how is your body recovering? How are you responding when you're not riding? And I think matching up all of this kind of wearable technology with physical and metabolic testing, and now you're measuring how much carbohydrate you're utilizing using the Super Sapiens or those constant glucose monitors, and having all that live and looking at it on a regular basis is really kind of what I think. It's the aggregation of all that data and all that wearable data, not only what you're doing in the moment, but also how your body is recovering and responding to that work. So putting all of that together has really pushed the science of coaching and sport significantly further ahead.
I've heard a few people sort of water cooler talk say that recovery is the new doping.
Yeah. Because we can measure it now. We have a better idea of how much we can tolerate. Usually back in the day, you'd just keep training until you felt really bad or your power numbers went down. And by that time, it might be a little bit too late. Now, as you're going through these recovery processes, you can catch little things that are showing you that you're not recovering completely. So you don't actually have to have a major downturn before you arrest the work. So you can just keep yourself from falling into those traps a lot sooner. And now with all the Theraguns and the ice baths and the technology around sleeping better and cooling sheets, and you can just get better sleep. You can monitor that sleep to make sure you're getting that good sleep. We know so much more about nutrition and what we're putting into our bodies as well that help us recover even more. I mean, you're absolutely right. If you really are good at the recovery element, man, can you really tolerate a heck of a lot more training load. And that's what drugs used to be able to do, give you the ability to tolerate more load. If you can recover better, you can tolerate more load. So it is, in essence, the new doping.
Robbie, technology with cycling, it's intimidating. Components and products and carbon, titanium, wireless, electronic, this, that. There's so much being thrown at consumers these days on just getting a bike. And then you layer on top of it training technology, performance technology, and fitness and fatigue and effort and recovery. It's complicated, right?
Yeah.
On the fitness side, if someone were just to start out, what's like the gateway drug or the starter measurement that someone might be interested in that would, be a step to something more? What would you recommend?
I think in the beginning, tracking how far you're going and how long you're going is probably a good start, right? I'm riding 5 miles and I'm doing that in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Now I'm doing 8 miles and I'm doing that in only 55 minutes. Generally, how far you're going and how you want to slowly but surely increase the time you're riding or the duration or the distance you're riding, if you want to call it that. And then as you get better, you're doing that distance in a shorter amount of time. Those are, I think, probably the two most basic things to think about, because all you need is a cycling computer, an Apple Watch, or something that can just measure how far you're going, and a clock, really. And if you're going to start with just gradually getting better, just start riding a little bit more each and every ride or each and every week. And that's probably the first and most important element to any training, is be consistent and slowly but surely grow your amount of time you're riding. And if you can get that right, you're getting like 80% of it right. The other stuff is 20%, all that complicated stuff. But a lot of times people want that 20%.
Let's talk about you and your fitness and your riding today. So obviously you're not a pro any longer, but you've still got a lot of miles in your legs. What does your daily fitness routine look like, and what kind of riding do you like to do today?
Yeah, I prefer to ride with others 90% of the time. There is once every few weeks I do like to go out on my own. I still love riding my bike. It's the one place where I can completely clear my head if I'm by myself. There's no other place I can do that. Like when I get on a bicycle and I have the trail and I'm just riding my bike, I can solve and just everything is clear as day, and just it's like this incredible time that I get. But for the most part, I don't get much of that. I do that maybe once every couple of weeks. For the most part, I ride 3 days a week. I ride Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, and Saturday morning, and I do it all with my Vision Quest athletes outside. And then I ride twice a week indoors on this new VQ Virtual that uses the Velocity platform, and I do 2 indoor rides a week on Tuesday and Thursday morning. And most of my riding is easy. I do those intensity rides on Velocity, get to be a little hard at times. But my whole goal, the whole reason why I ride my bike for a few reasons. Reason number one, I want to stay in great shape so I can be a great father, great husband, and continue to just exist, right, and be a good friend.
Yeah.
And I think cycling to me is one of those cornerstones of being healthy. The other one is strength training, and the other one is nutrition. And I've been focusing more and more on those other two a little bit more as I get older because my training volume is down. So I want to keep my strength up, and I want to keep my nutrition pretty darn good. Not perfect. I don't do anything perfect. I do everything pretty good. And then from the so the first reason is I want to stay healthy. The second one is I want to see this world. I still like going places and riding my bike and experiencing the smells, the culture, and the vibe of different places. I always take a few trips a year where I go ride in other places, usually with athletes, and I just love to experience this world through bike. Yeah. And the third thing, and probably the one thing that I want to really make sure that everybody understands is that my whole cycling is a way for me to help others. It's for me to give them the gift of health and wellness. And I need to stay healthy myself. So a lot of my cycling is to support those other three things. But I do still like to mix it up. I do some big events. I'm doing Latoja this year, which is a 200-mile cycling event. I'm not nearly as powerful, as fast as I used to be, but I'm still cagey. I can still kind of keep up with most rides. I can still go hard when I want to, and I love to push myself. I think it's really important as we get older, I'm 51 years of age right now, that I really continue to suffer once in a while. I feel like it's a gift to be able to suffer. I feel like it makes me feel alive when I can feel that, and I need to do it. And people think I'm crazy, but I'll make myself really dig deep at least once every 3 or 4 months.
Robbie, we talked a little bit about Vision Quest, your coaching business, and you just mentioned briefly Velocity. Tell us about Velocity. What is it? Where did the idea come from? And where are you going with it?
So as a coach, I've been coaching for now 25 years. One of my goals is I want to be the best coach I can possibly be. And I see there's a gap in the coaching world. I think there's a lot of apps out there. There's a lot of options out there for cyclists to get help and get work without hiring a coach or without using a coach. I've always believed that the human element in coaching is by far and away the most important element in coaching. To be able to teach someone the nuance of our sport. Telling someone to go hard for a given duration, that's not coaching, right? That's just telling someone to go hard for a duration. You can have AI or a computer do that. But to teach them how to train properly, or to teach them why they're doing what they're doing, or the technique that I want them to use to be able to manage terrain, or the time they're going to use this type of interval in an actual race, and how you can adjust that intensity or adjust your position to be more effective, that's real coaching. And that's very difficult for coaches to do when they have athletes scattered all over the country, or all over the city for that matter. Yeah. So we created a platform that coaches can use to connect with their athletes and coach at the level that I just talked about. But they can also get their athletes to connect together and do a workout together. Because I always believe the greatest teams, the greatest groups I've ever been a part of, I not only had a great coach, but I had other people that I could share the experience with that were also being coached and also being motivated. And by having other people in my class, it raised my level just having them there. And then secondly, the coach was teaching somebody something specific that I could apply to my own cycling as well. So by a coach coaching other people and me witnessing that, I had a lot more information coming in. So we developed the Velocity platform to give to coaches so they can make that connection with their athletes. They can coach at that higher level, and they can connect their athletes together. And we did this 2.5 years ago during COVID when our facilities kind of went dormant. And it has really helped me be a better coach. And I feel like if I can create a solution that can really help me do something better, I can apply it to every coach that has ever had athletes or currently has athletes to do their job better as well.
So are there other coaches around the world that are using the Velocity platform to train their athletes?
Yep. Some of the biggest, actually. The largest triathlon coaching group in the world, Purple Patch, is using the platform that we developed to coach their athletes. I mean, they have 600 to 800 athletes that are getting online and learning from the incredible coach Matt Dixon, his other coaches as well. He's being able to transfer that data real time to athletes, not only real time, but the rides get recorded in an on-demand library, and now he can take those rides and link them to, because he has athletes all over the world. He has athletes in China and Scotland. So to get those athletes that kind of personalized coaching, he records it, it goes in an on-demand library, and then the athletes can pick that where he can kind of assign that workout to them.
Tell us just a little bit more. What does an athlete need if they wanted to try the Velocity platform? Do they need to find a coach that is using the platform? How do they learn more about it?
Yeah, so only this is a product for only coaches, because the coach creates the content that the athlete can absorb. So if athletes want to learn from Vision Quest, they can join the Vision Quest virtual platform, and we
Okay.
use Velocity. And what the athlete would have, all the athlete needs is a computer or an iPad. And we use the camera on your iPad so we can see you. We can adjust your position. We work on aerodynamics. We work on hand positions and talk about the reasons why you use different hand positions. We can see if you're doing it correctly or not, and adjust that. But all you really need is a computer. It works best with a smart trainer, because we can control the trainer. We can create those gradients that I talked about. And we can also score you and say, and literally we can gamify these different steps or these different intervals and give you points if you can manage to keep the power in the right spot as well as the cadence in the right spot. So what makes the platform really fun for athletes is they can score points, and the more they use the platform, the better their skills get, the more points they can score. So if you're an athlete, you have a smart trainer, you have an iPad, you have a computer, and you have an excitement and a willingness and a willingness to have some fun and be motivated, it is an incredible experience. Zwift is great, RGT is great, all these other platforms are great, but I will tell you, having a coach motivate you and teach you, either live or on demand, is a pretty incredible experience. And hopefully more and more coaches will start using it. And if you have a coach, just ask your coach, say, hey, I heard about Velocity from Robbie. It doesn't cost the coach anything. I mean, we just give the coaches the platform, and they can just engage with the athlete.
I did a little bit of research before this show, and I saw you guys have a pretty cool slogan. It says, "Better starts inside."
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, we just think that so much can be taught and controlled and learned by training indoors. I think intensity, very specific, 60 to 90-minute intensity rides can be much more effective if they're taught, and much more effective if they're done indoors with a coach, with other people, with gamification. The learning curve gets cut significantly. I mean, we have some beginner athletes that join our platform, and we teach them how to do a rotation indoors on our platform. They get outside, which might take a guy an entire year, or a woman an entire year, to learn how to do a good rotating baseline. 3 or 4 classes indoors with us, 1 or 2 workouts outside, they already have it mastered because they understand the reasons why they're doing what they're doing. I tell them exactly how to do it, what to deal with I really coach the process, so when they get outside and we practice it, it's already there. So I think this platform will make cyclists not only better, not only have a lot more fun, but it'll make them safer bike riders, because we teach people how to control your output as well. I mean, you've been on a lot of rides, Dave, where guys are going too hard, they're slamming on the brakes, they're all over the place. This platform really teaches people to ride smoothly. And when you ride smoothly outside, you're a better rider for the group, you have more fun, and you're significantly safer as well.
Over the past 2.5 years, you've built an incredible on-demand library as well, right? So not only are there live classes, but you've been able to archive these on-demand classes.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen, correct me if I'm wrong, but you also have some cool like star talent that comes on and teaches these. Tell us about some of those.
Yeah, some of my old cycling buddies, some of my old triathlon friends, and some of the new guys are coming in here and doing 8 classes for us. And because I'll tell you what, like I said in the beginning, I don't have it all figured out. I want to learn from Andy Potts. I want to learn from Meredith Kessler. I want to learn from Kevin Livingston. I want to learn from Casey Armstrong. I want to learn from the world record holder, in the pursuit. I mean, everybody has something to offer. And I believe that we give, in our virtual platform, a whole bunch of other coaches the opportunity to share with our customers how they like to do things and the type of workouts that they like to do. Ashton Lambie's workouts are incredible. He's one of the guys in our on-demand library as well. So it's a really kind of a cool experience. And we also have strength training, because you can't forget the strength training elements when you're thinking about becoming a good cyclist or just being fit in general. So I think it's up to these coaches. They can go as deep, they can have as many guests on as they want, they can do running, they can do whatever they want. The platform really allows them, like I said, to to teach the nuance of our sport, which I think gets lost a lot of times in AI-based coaching or just general training plans that people buy.
You've already shared a lot of great health and wellness things that you do with Vision Quest and inspiring others and living your best self and health and wellness to the best of your abilities. But there's also some great causes that you're involved in. Everything from St. Jude's to World Bicycle Relief to Dare to Try. I'd love to hear a little bit about some of those and why they're important and what your role is. Let's start maybe at the top with St. Jude's.
So St. Jude is something that my daughter Luna started doing in St. Joe's in her grade school, and she started this leadership team. She if she raised enough money, she became a St. Jude leader. They would send her down to St. Jude, and she would get to spend some time there with some of the patients. And they came up with this program with my wife's help about teaching kids how to be leaders. And we started hosting that program 7, 8 years ago here at Vision Quest. And we not only hosted it, but we ran the entire program at one point where we taught the kids the importance of health and wellness. We taught them the importance of leadership. We taught them the importance of sleep and nutrition. And they would spend 4 or 5 hours here at VQ having fun. We brought in some food. We had them play games. We kind of broke them up into little groups. We talked about the importance of communication. And I think we had a pretty big impact on these young kids, and it really felt great. And even when Luna graduated from the program, we kept it going, and we're still keeping it going to this day. We get about 40 kids that come in here on a regular basis. And what really is kind of a cool thing that happened is VQers started contributing. So these kids have to raise money to get to this, to get a plane ticket to go to this, to get a trip to St. Jude. And all these kids, we work with them to get them plenty of money so they all have the opportunity to get to St. Jude and see what the difference that they're making real time, face to face. So that's a really cool program. I love it. It's a day out of my life, which I absolutely would give every single year. It feels pretty good to work with kids. I think kids are the future. You teach them the right way and what's important in life, and good things happen. And I think that they're our next leaders. So we have to do something as it relates to helping them.
In our conversations and just sort of watching what you do through the years, I've also learned that you are a World Bicycle Relief ambassador and fundraiser and donor. And what are some of the things that you do with World Bicycle Relief, and what resonated about World Bicycle Relief for you?
I love SRAM. I love FK. I love everything that you guys stand for. And World Bicycle Relief, one of our athletes, Katie Bowling, was a big executive. I don't know what you call it at World Bicycle Relief, and we did an event every year for them. And we raised money for them every year. But just recently, we started hosting a ride, and it was really cool. Taylor Finney and Kasha Nawiadoma. I think that's right. She's Taylor's girlfriend, and I think she got third place in the World Championships. We did a kind of a really cool events ride here that left out of Vision Quest, and it was a donor ride for WBR, and it was terrific. And the cool thing about it is Cassia rode in her Canyon shorts and like a dress top, and Taylor Finney rode in sandals and jean shorts, jorts, I think they're called, on a upright bicycle. I mean, it was just funny. Like the reason why I like World Bicycle Relief is they have fun. They help out a ton of people, but they enjoy what they do, and they're doing it through the bicycle, which I think is great. I'm still trying to get to Africa to be a part of and see a little bit more of what they do there. That's going to be a trip that I ultimately want to do very soon. But I think World Bicycle Relief is great. I think you guys have made a humongous impact, and if there's something I can do to help support that, by all means, I'll do it. And then the last one, like you said, was Dare to Try, and we sponsor. They do a big cycling event or like a triathlon event here at Vision Quest in Highland Park once a year, where they swim at the Foss Studio. They do some strength training at Illinois Bone and Joint, and then they do their bike ride in our studio. And that's pretty cool. I mean, we raise a bunch of money for them as well. But just seeing the Dare to Try athletes work hard, make things happen. It's amazing what they can accomplish with the challenges that they have, and that the fact that Vision Quest can help support them is great.
For our listeners that aren't as familiar with Dare to Try, tell us about that organization. What are they? What type of community do they serve?
Dare to Try serves athletes that have had challenge. Not necessarily. They could have been born with a deformity. They could have lost it in an accident. Maybe they've lost their hand or their ankle or their leg or something, and they want to continue with sport. They want to continue with sport at a recreational level, but all the way up to an Olympic level. I mean, Dare to Try services athletes that are going to the Olympics for triathlon. And they provide money for prosthetics. They provide money for travel. They provide money for coaching. They provide money for wheelchairs and different things that they will need to do their sport. And they're a kind of a local organization. Carrie Sirota runs it, and she does an amazing job. She works her butt off. Longtime VQer Ron Weinert, I think, is the chairman, but a lot of the VQers that are currently members are on the board. So
Amazing.
Vision Quest is a big supporter of that organization on a bunch of levels, not only from a standpoint of actually using the facility and working with the athletes, but also their board of advisors and the heads of state outside of Carrie are all involved in Vision Quest in some way.
That's awesome. RV, we are almost out of time, but we do have one last section of the show. It's our psychological profile where I throw 15 this or that's at you and we just see what you like.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Pancakes or waffles?
Walker Brothers pancakes.
Oh, specific. You're the first person that's ever been that specific.
Yep.
I like it. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Tacos or burritos?
Tacos.
Spicy or mild?
Spicy.
Cold weather or hot weather?
To ride in cold weather, to vacation in hot weather.
Rain or snow?
Vacation in snow, ride in rain.
Mountains or the beach?
Ride in the mountains, vacation in the beach.
Cities or suburbs?
Suburbs, country mouse.
Cars or trucks?
Come on, truck.
Yeah, I've seen your truck. That's more like it should be monster trucks.
I love the trucks.
Pavement or dirt?
Pavement. It's probably rare these days, huh? Everyone loves the gravel.
It is rare because gravel. I might, you know what? I might have to change that question to add a third category. Gloves or gloveless?
I don't wear gloves.
Man. Clipped in or flat pedals?
Clipped in.
Low pressure or high pressure in your tires?
I know this is probably bucking the system. I'm high pressure. I like speed. There's low pressure stuff. I don't get it.
Comfort equals speed, RV.
No, I get it. I mean, not too low though. Like people are starting to really take this to the next level, and
Yeah.
I do like a little. I mean, I don't ride 100 psi on my road bike, but I
Well,
ride
good.
70. You know what I mean? I'm not down in the 45 range like some of these guys.
Fix it yourself or take it to a mechanic.
Mechanic, terrible. I'm terrible at fixing.
Last question, dogs or cats?
Oh, I'm allergic as all get out to cats. They put me by a cat, I'm done. I love dogs.
Really? But you can do dogs.
I can only do hypoallergenic dog. I have a Legato Romagnolo from Italy, and he's a cool guy. Truffle hunter.
Of course your dog is Italian.
Truffle hunter.
Has he found any truffles in the, gravel plains of
No hazelnut trees by us, so no truffles, but he sure does hunt the bunnies, that's for sure.
All right, man. Robbie Ventura, you are awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, for your time, and everything that you do for athletes around the world and the community at large. You're great.
I appreciate it, Dave.
Thanks, brother.